If you were to ask literally anyone what the most dominant predator in the ocean is, chances are they'd say the orca, also known as the killer whale. And I mean, who could blame them? These apex predators hunt everything from seals to great white sharks to even blue whales, the largest animal to have ever existed. They're built like torpedoes, hunt in coordinated packs with military precision, and have been documented playing with their food like sadistic cat toys. In other words, they're basically the ocean's version of an unstoppable final boss. And yet, there's one creature that orcas actively avoid. One animal that makes these 6-ton murder machines turn around and swim in the opposite direction. And no, it's not some prehistoric megalodon that somehow survived or a colossal squid with anger issues. It's actually another type of whale that most people have never even heard of, and if we're being honest, looks kind of derpy. I'm talking about the pilot whale. And the relationship between these two is so completely bonkers that it's going to make you question everything you thought you knew about ocean hierarchies. So let's start with what makes orcas so terrifying in the first place, because understanding why they're scary makes their fear of pilot whales even more ridiculous. Adult male orcas can reach lengths of up to 9.8 meters or 32 feet and weigh around 6 tons, making them about as heavy as 3 large pickup trucks stacked on top of each other. And if that doesn't quite paint the picture, imagine a school bus, but give it teeth and the ability to swim at 56 kilometers per hour or 35 miles per hour, which for reference is faster than Usain Bolt's top speed, except they're doing it while being the size of said bus in water. So basically they're built different. But size and speed are only part of what makes orcas nightmare fuel for pretty much everything else in the ocean. These guys hunt in pods of up to 40 individuals and use cooperative hunting strategies that would make military tacticians genuinely jealous. They've been observed creating waves to wash seals off ice floes, using tail slaps to stun entire schools of fish, and even intentionally beaching themselves to grab prey before wiggling back into the water like the world's most terrifying worm. And if that wasn't enough, different orca populations have developed distinct hunting cultures that get passed down through generations, meaning they literally have their own traditions for murdering things. It's like if humans had different barbecue styles, except instead of arguing about sauce, it's about the most efficient way to drown a seal. Oh, and they don't just hunt fish and seals. Orcas have been documented attacking and eating great white sharks specifically for their livers, which they apparently consider a delicacy. They'll kill a shark, flip it upside down to induce tonic immobility, which is basically a paralysis state that happens to sharks when they're inverted, and then surgically remove the liver with scary precision before leaving the rest of the carcass like some kind of ocean serial killer. So basically they're performing organ harvesting on one of the ocean's other apex predators. Casual Tuesday stuff. They've also been known to hunt whales significantly larger than themselves, including minke whales, gray whales, and even juvenile humpbacks. The strategy typically involves exhausting the larger whale by taking turns biting and ramming it until it literally can't swim anymore. Some attacks have been documented lasting over 6 hours. 6 hours. That's longer than most people's workday, except instead of answering emails, orcas are committing cetacean homicide. With all this in mind, you'd think literally nothing would intimidate an orca. They're bigger than most things, faster than almost everything, smarter than just about any other animal in the ocean, and they hunt in groups with coordinated strategies. They're essentially the Navy SEALs of the sea, if Navy SEALs also occasionally ate great white sharks for breakfast. And yet, whenever pilot whales show up, orcas suddenly remember they have somewhere else to be. Like, immediately. And the reason why is actually way weirder than you'd think. Now, pilot whales come in 2 species. The long-finned and short-finned pilot whale, but both share the characteristics that apparently make orcas nervous. And when you first look at a pilot whale, your immediate reaction is probably, wait, that's what scares a killer whale. Because honestly, pilot whales look like someone tried to draw a dolphin from memory after not seeing one for like 5 years and got the proportions slightly wrong. They have these bulbous melon-shaped heads that make them look perpetually confused about where they park their car, and their bodies are described by scientists as stocky, which is polite research speak for built like a refrigerator with flippers. Size-wise, they're actually not that impressive compared to orcas. Male long-finned pilot whales max out at about 6.3 meters or 20.7 feet in length and weigh around 2.3 tons, while short-finned pilot whales are even smaller at 5.5 meters or 18 feet and about 1.8 tons. So in other words, a male orca is nearly 50% longer and almost 3 times heavier than a pilot whale. To put that in perspective, it would be like a fully grown lion being scared of a particularly aggressive golden retriever. The math just doesn't math. But here's the thing, pilot whales don't travel alone. Like, ever. And I don't mean they hang out in small family groups. I mean they form absolutely massive aggregations that make orca pods look like a small family gathering at Thanksgiving. While orcas typically hunt in pods of 5 to 40 individuals, pilot whales roll up in groups that can contain anywhere from 20 to 150 individuals, with some documented superpods reaching over 1,000 whales. Yes, you read that right. 1,000 whales traveling together. That's not a pod anymore. That's an entire aquatic army with a navy that would make most countries jealous. And it turns out, when you have that many whales working together, individual size doesn't matter nearly as much as you'd think. Researchers have documented multiple instances of pilot whales actively chasing off orcas, and in every single case, the orcas retreated, not cautiously kept their distance or decided to hunt elsewhere. Full on turned around and swam away like they just remembered they left the stove on back at the reef. The relationship between these two species has been observed by whalers and fishermen for centuries, with sailors noting that whenever pilot whales appeared in an area, orcas would vanish. In fact, the name pilot whale doesn't come from them guiding other whales, which is a common misconception, but rather from the way they would like pilot or lead schools of fish into bays where fishermen could catch them. Though some researchers also believe it refers to their tendency to follow a dominant pilot individual in their pod, kind of like how your friend group has that one person who always decides where everyone's eating dinner. But the historical observations get even weirder. Icelandic fishermen from the 19th century documented pilot whales not just avoiding orcas, but actively harassing them. There are records of pilot whale groups surrounding orca pods and essentially bullying them out of fishing areas. And these weren't small skirmishes either. Some of these confrontations reportedly lasted hours, with the pilot whales refusing to back down until the orcas left entirely. Okay, so we've established that pilot whales travel in massive groups, and apparently have a historical beef with orcas, but that alone doesn't fully explain why orcas are so scared of them. After all, orcas also hunt in groups and regularly take on prey much larger than themselves, including actual whales. So what's actually happening here that makes orcas treat pilot whales like an aquatic no-go zone? Well, it turns out pilot whales are absolutely unhinged when it comes to defending their pod members. And I don't mean that in the cute, they stick together way that you'd see in a wholesome nature documentary. I mean, they are genuinely, certifiably aggressive in a way that makes orcas look polite by comparison. Researchers have observed pilot whales not just defending against orca attacks, but actively seeking out orcas to harass them. In one documented case off the coast of California, a group of about 50 pilot whales chased a pod of orcas for over an hour, and the orcas spent the entire time fleeing. Not fighting back, not trying to outmaneuver them, just straight up running away. But here's where it gets really weird. Pilot whales don't just chase orcas away, they gang up on them. Like full-on mob mentality that would make a pack of hyenas say, okay, that's a bit much. When an orca gets too close to a pilot whale pod, multiple pilot whales will surround the orca and essentially swarm it into submission. They'll ram it with their bulbous heads, bite it with their cone-shaped teeth, and use their sheer numbers to overwhelm it. And remember, even though individual pilot whales are smaller than orcas, when you've got 20 or 30 of them surrounding a single orca like angry underwater hornets, size becomes completely irrelevant. The crazy part is that this behavior seems to be cultural, passed down through generations just like orca hunting techniques. Different pilot whale populations have different levels of aggression toward orcas, with some groups barely acknowledging them and others treating orcas like they're mortal enemies who killed their father and must pay. Scientists believe this might be because in certain regions, orcas have been known to occasionally prey on pilot whale calves, and the pilot whales basically said absolutely not and decided to make orcas regret that decision for all eternity. Grudges, apparently, aren't just a human thing. Oh, and it gets weirder. Pilot whales have the second largest brain of any animal on Earth relative to their body size, with only humans beating them. Their brains weigh around 2.7 kilograms, or 6 pounds, which is significantly larger than orca brains at about 2.5 kilograms, or 5.5 pounds. And this is despite pilot whales being much smaller overall. To put that in perspective, pilot whales are packing more brain power per pound of body weight than orcas, which has led researchers to believe that pilot whales might actually be even more intelligent than orcas in certain ways, particularly when it comes to social coordination and communication. In other words, they're not just aggressive, they're smart about being aggressive, which is honestly terrifying. And speaking of communication, pilot whales are loud. Like absurdly, unreasonably loud. They produce clicks and whistles that can reach up to 210 decibels underwater, which for reference is louder than a freaking jet engine at takeoff. A jet engine, that thing that makes airport workers wear hearing protection or risk going deaf. Pilot whales can produce sounds louder than that. They use this noise not just for echolocation, but also for coordinating attacks and essentially screaming at anything they don't like. Imagine being an orca, minding your own business, hunting some fish, and suddenly 100 pilot whales start screaming at you at jet engine volumes while simultaneously surrounding you like an aquatic angry mob. Yeah, I'd leave too. Immediately. No questions asked. This whole orca-pilot whale dynamic actually reveals something fascinating about ocean ecosystems that kind of flips our understanding of predator hierarchies on its head. Size and hunting prowess don't automatically guarantee dominance. The ocean operates on a weird version of rock, paper, scissors, where the rules we think exist, based on nature documentaries, get thrown out the window based on behavior, intelligence, and most importantly, social structure. Orcas might beat great white sharks, and great white sharks might beat seals, but pilot whales beat orcas, and it's not even close. In the case of pilot whales, their success against orcas demonstrates that cooperative defense can completely trump individual predatory ability. This has massive implications for how we understand marine mammal evolution, because it suggests that species don't just evolve to be better hunters or bigger animals. They evolve to be better at working together. Pilot whales essentially evolved to be the ocean's equivalent of a biker gang. Individually, they might not be the toughest thing out there, but collectively they're basically untouchable. And apparently, they know it. What's also interesting is that this relationship actually affects orca hunting patterns across entire regions. In areas where pilot whales are common, orcas have been observed changing their hunting routes and times specifically to avoid encounters. Scientists studying orca populations off the coast of Scotland and Iceland have documented orcas abandoning traditionally productive hunting grounds when pilot whale pods move into the area. This means that pilot whales, just by existing in large enough numbers, are actively influencing the behavior of apex predators across entire ocean regions. They're not just defending themselves, they're actively shaping the ecosystem around them like some kind of aquatic neighborhood watch that everyone actually listens to. Recent research has also revealed something even more fascinating. Pilot whales seem to have specific vocalizations they use when orcas are nearby, essentially functioning as alarm calls that alert the entire pod to potential threats. But here's the kicker, these calls are different from their normal communication sounds, and appear to rally the group for coordinated defense. In other words, they have a specific "it's go time" signal that basically means orcas spotted, everyone get ready to throw hands. Or fins. You know what I mean. From a conservation perspective, this dynamic adds another layer to why pilot whale populations matter beyond just the standard "whales are cool and we should protect them" argument, though that argument is also completely valid. Pilot whales are unfortunately one of the cetacean species still hunted in certain parts of the world, particularly in the Faroe Islands where traditional hunts kill hundreds annually. Understanding their role as orca deterrents and potential keystone species that influence the behavior of other apex predators makes their conservation even more critical to maintaining balanced ocean ecosystems. Think of it like this. Orcas are the advanced military with better technology, superior training, and more experience. But pilot whales are the guerrilla force with overwhelming numbers, intimate knowledge of the terrain, and a willingness to defend their territory at all costs. And just like in actual warfare, sometimes numbers and determination beat superior firepower. Except in this case, the warfare is happening thousands of feet underwater and involves a lot more echolocation. So, to circle back to our original question, why are orcas the ocean's most feared apex predators who hunt great white sharks for their livers and coordinate military-style attacks on whales 3 times their size, absolutely terrified of pilot whales? Well, because pilot whales decided they would be. And when a group of 100 plus intelligent, aggressive, jet engine loud cetaceans with generational grudges and the second biggest brains on Earth relative to body size says something, apparently even killer whales listen. The craziest part is that this isn't some rare occurrence or regional anomaly that only happens in one specific part of the ocean. This happens consistently across the world's oceans wherever both species overlap. Orcas have learned, probably through some very unpleasant encounters involving being surrounded by angry whales screaming at 210 decibels, that messing with pilot whales simply isn't worth it. No matter how big you are, how coordinated your hunting strategies are, or how many sharks you've surgically harvested organs from, and we've established that orcas do this, which is still wild, when the pilot whale mob shows up, you leave. End of discussion. And honestly, there's something kind of beautiful about that. In a world where we often assume the biggest and strongest win by default, pilot whales are out here proving that sometimes the real power comes from just having a lot of really angry friends who are ride or die and willing to back you up. It's like if the entire concept of safety in numbers evolved into a biological strategy so effective that it makes apex predators rethink their life choices. So the next time you see a nature documentary hyping up orcas as the ocean's ultimate predators, with dramatic music and slow motion shots of them hunting seals, just remember, somewhere out there, a group of stocky, melon-headed whales with anger management issues is waiting to remind them who really runs the neighborhood. And the orcas know it.